Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Middle Hustle podcast. I have the privilege of interviewing Shamaila Khan, a lawyer, mother, and now an author of a children's book. Assalamu alaikum, Shamaila, and thank you for taking the time and being on this podcast.
Wa alaikum salam, Shafiq. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, Shamaila, for those who do not know you, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, goodness. I feel like I wear so many hats. I am Australian, born and raised in Sydney, living in Melbourne. I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. I am married. I'm a wife to my husband of almost 15 years. We have two children together. So my girl is 9 and my son just turned 3. So I'm a mother. That's another hat. Um, I am a lawyer. I've traditionally worked in the community legal sector space, in family law, family violence. I'm currently taking a practicing break just because that does have a tendency to generate burnout in lawyers. So I think it's important to take breaks from that work. So I'm currently training junior lawyers.
Wow.
And thinking about whether I would go back to practice when my children are a little bit older, but we'll see. So
yes.
Another really important hat is the lawyer hat.
Yeah.
And now apparently I'm a writer, which feels really surreal and difficult to accept, I think. There's a lot of imposter syndrome around that.
That's amazing, Shamaila, amazing, mashallah. Now, let's talk a little bit about the lawyer being a lawyer. Like, for our younger listeners out there, what does it take to become a lawyer?
Goodness. I think it takes a lot of passion. It's not one of those roles, particularly if you are an advocate. I think the law degree has become really quite generalized. It's become sort of like an arts degree where you do your degree and you don't necessarily have to go into practice as a lawyer. You don't need to be the person in the courtrooms. You can use that degree in a variety of ways. My brother is a law grad as well, and he's not a lawyer. He works in assessments and things like that. I know lots of people that move into in-house counsel roles as well. So they're typically advising organizations around contracts and risk. But if you are going to go and become a lawyer in the sense of going into courtrooms and managing a caseload, I think it has to be a calling. It can't just be something that you do I don't know, to make your parents happy or whatever. You truly have to have a passion for it because it is really challenging work. There are certain areas of it that are more challenging than others. And if you don't have a passion for it, if you're not excited by it, if you don't find it meaningful to engage with clients and to help people when they're at such a vulnerable time in their lives, then the rates of burnout in the profession are really high. So the passion helps you to get through those times and to remind you why you love the work that you do, why you find it meaningful, why it's important. So I really think you need to have that passion from the start.
Yeah. So straight out of college, is there like any specific subjects that you have to do to become a lawyer, or is that just something that you choose in college or uni?
Look, I don't know what the requirements are anymore. When I was in high school, you just had to do English. Like you had to do, I studied in New South Wales, so you had to have done advanced English as a prerequisite. There weren't any other requirements, even though legal studies was an elective at my high school, but it wasn't a requirement that you had to do it in order to get into a Bachelor of Laws at university. You just had to have good English, basically. So it's not like medicine, for example, where typically you'd have like chemistry and physics as your prerequisites and things like that. And if you don't have them, then you'd have to do like bridging courses and things at university. Nothing like that. Law is quite accessible in that sense. And almost every university has a law school. So as long as you get the grades to get that entry cutoff point, and it varies from university to university, a lot of people can access that degree.
Okay. And you were saying something about you're teaching junior lawyers, is that correct?
Yeah. So I work with the Women's Legal Service in Victoria, and I'm currently working in their education team. And I just lawyers, like doctors, are required to do CPD every year, professional development, in order to maintain their registration. So it's just an ongoing thing, and my role is to develop training, particularly around family law and family violence and any intersections with those areas of law. So I develop training workshops, short form and long form practical training as well. So we run really intensive workshops where we have like a moot court, a fake court, and we actually get real magistrates to come in and feature in that as well. So people get to practice their submissions. So I'm really privileged to be part of that. And I love working with junior lawyers who are so fresh and
Yeah.
not jaded, and they're still so alive
Yeah.
and so excited to make a difference.
Yeah.
It really kind of helps you to I don't know, rekindle that flame in your own self as well, to remember why you got into this job to begin with. So that's been
Wow. Yeah, that's very rewarding, isn't
it
it?
is. I never thought I'd get into
To
it.
be,
And my mother is a teacher. She's been
yeah,
telling me to get into teaching for generations. I
yeah,
always
yeah,
was like, no, thank you.
yeah,
But I quite like it.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's my parents are teachers as well. I think if you have parents as teachers, you always have that sort of inkling to do some form of education
It's funny how that
at
happens,
some
isn't it?
stage.
Like, it feels like we somehow end
It
up becoming
does.
our parents.
100%. I agree with that. Now, when you say family law, there's I mean, what sort of, I mean, if you don't mind, do you have any stories to share, or like what sort of things do you sort of see with family law?
You see quite a lot of depressing cases, to be honest. Family law in Australia, if you're a family lawyer, you are dealing with separated couples who are, relationship breakdown. So you're not seeing them at the starting point where their relationship is kind of on the rocks and maybe there's, a chance that it's going to be salvaged. People are typically going to lawyers when the relationship has 100% broken down and it's acrimonious. They are not able to resolve whatever disputes they might have in relation to the children or property on their own. So you are dealing with people who are, um, already having quite a lot of resentment against their former partners and need help to navigate those really important decisions. And in the community legal sector, those challenges are amplified because, in order to access the services of the community legal sector, the clients typically need to have low income. They might also have other factors like family violence might be present in the relationship. They might have disability. They might come from a low socioeconomic background. They might have mental illness. They might have disability. They might have drug and alcohol addiction issues as well. So you are presented with clients that have these, really multifaceted issues that they need help with, and you have a really holistic approach to assisting them.
Yeah. It's sad, isn't it, to see, like you said, it's at the end of their relationship. They come to you at the very last stages. They can't sort of seem to fix it.
No,
Yeah.
and it really skews your perspective on relationships, to be totally
Yeah.
honest. You get
Absolutely.
this sense that like
Absolutely.
everyone's getting divorced and everyone ends up at court. But I was reading a statistic the other day that said that 97% of all relationship breakdowns actually resolve outside the courts and without lawyers. And I remember like
Oh, really?
shocked by that, because when you work in the sector, you think, oh God, it's everywhere, and everyone ends up in court.
Yeah.
It's only a very small percentage
Yeah.
of people that actually need our help. So that gives me a little bit of hope that actually people
Oh,
are able to
yeah.
have the emotional maturity to resolve matters as best they can. And it's, doesn't always
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
acrimonious.
Yes. Any reason for, for them to, I mean, with divorce rates being so high, like, I mean, you being in the family law for a while now, I mean, I mean, there are lots of reasons to it, but I mean, in your experience, like what's the one of the main reasons for people to end up, you know, having divorces
Oh, look, it's
and going through the courts?
really difficult to say, to be honest. A lot of my cases involved
Yeah.
family violence just because the nature of the funding model was set up that if you didn't have family violence present, it was actually harder to get funding for a free lawyer to run the case. So most of mine involve family violence, involve situations where primarily women have taken the really courageous step to end what is already a really toxic relationship and to walk out of that. And in doing so, she's elevated her risk because we know from the data that separation is a really risky time for women who are already surviving family violence. So for me, that is a major cause of relationship breakdown is you have family violence present. So that was a lot of what I was seeing. I don't have a tremendous amount of experience outside of the community legal sector space. So I don't know what the private sector might be seeing in terms of why people are breaking up and why they're ending up in these sort of acrimonious situations. I can only speculate as to what those reasons might be. I suspect, like anything, when things are hard with the economy,
Yeah.
then it has a trickle down effect on almost everything. So if families are stressed about money, then typically you'll see higher rates of family violence, for example. You'll
Correct.
see
Yeah.
higher rates of relationship breakdown, I would assume, because it does have that really far-reaching, impact on families when things are really stressful and people are financially strapped. Yeah, that's what I would speculate.
Yeah, when you say private sector, is there a big difference between public and private, or like like in medicine, we do have going to the public system, and if you do work in the, it's basically access. Is that the same in the law industry as well?
Yeah, it's really becoming quite a huge issue because the reason the community
Yeah.
legal sector exists is to serve the needs of people who are entitled, they have the right to legal representation. But if they don't have the money for it, if they can't afford it, that shouldn't mean that they don't have access to justice, that they don't have access to a lawyer to run their case and give them the best possible outcome that they could achieve. So it's set up as part of those
Yeah.
natural justice principles that everyone has the right to justice. So it's a really
Okay.
crucial part of our legal system, and it wouldn't operate without having these free services. But the funding is really inconsistent, and it doesn't reflect changing times. It doesn't reflect changing needs, and
Yeah.
it's really difficult because the funding gets smaller and smaller, which means more and more people are excluded from getting that free legal assistance,
Oh,
which
really?
means they only really have two options. They can either spend
Yeah.
literally tens of thousands of dollars on private lawyers. Private lawyer fees are
Wow.
phenomenally through the roof. Normal
Oh,
people cannot afford private lawyer
yeah.
fees, especially in family law
Yeah.
matters where the matters can go on for years. It's not something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
finalizes quickly. So you could be spending, 50, 60, 80, $90,000 on legal fees alone. And for those who don't have access to that, but also don't meet the requirements for a free lawyer through the community legal sector, the only option they have
Yeah.
is to self-represent. So we're seeing a lot of
Oh,
people
really?
self-representing in the courts, which is really,
Yeah.
it poses its own challenges. It's stressful for the person. It also makes it hard for the court. It makes it hard for the judges and magistrates to manage cases when they're dealing with someone who has no clue what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, sounds scary. It sounds, I mean,
Yeah.
stressful. If you have no knowledge about law, how does one represent themselves? It's a scary thought.
It's really, really horrible and really challenging.
Yeah.
And the funding, what makes it difficult is, obviously you've got people
Yeah.
in the community legal sector who want to do as much as they can to help people. The reason you
Yeah.
get into that is because you
Yeah.
have a passion and a desire to help people. And it's so hard when you have to turn people away or you have to tell people, oh, look, your case meets the funding guidelines for up to this point, but it won't fit. So it might meet guidelines for a lawyer to help you with the mediation process. But I'm telling you, if I have a client and I know they don't meet the guidelines for me to continue representing them at trial, if it goes to court, then that
Yeah.
puts a lot of pressure on that client to settle at the mediation stage because they can't really afford to not settle if it means they'll go to court and they'll have no lawyer. So it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people. It's hard for lawyers. It's hard for the client.
Yeah.
Mostly it's hard for the client.
Yeah. And so just what happens if the case it just fizzles off, or that's it? No, that's the end of the case if there's no
No,
outcome.
so people can settle things at mediation. So let's
Okay.
just say there's a separation
Yeah.
and the parties
Mm.
can't agree on where the kids are going to live and how much time they spend with the other parent. The first step is to go to mediation. That's a really accessible, free service or low cost service that people can utilize to try and resolve their disputes. But if they can't resolve it at mediation, then it really depends on how much each party is going to dig their heels in about this issue. Sometimes they do fizzle off. Sometimes they do talk to each other and they can sort of sort it out. But sometimes one party will take the other party to court and say, I am going to progress this in the courts. And if you are being taken to court, you must respond. You can't ignore it. The risk is too great that orders will be made in your absence.
Mm. Mm.
So it's a really tricky situation to be in.
Yeah, no, it's sorry for dwelling on this a bit. It sounds really interesting, Shamaila. So, I've
No, that's fine.
I just
I love talking about it. I
yeah,
really love the law.
I think I think it's very like you said, like relationships are very fragile. Family relationships, they're very marriage
Yes,
relationships, they're very fragile. Someone says the wrong thing, yeah. Someone it's your word against theirs, and
yes.
it's like you said, it's very fragile. I think everyone has relationship issues, and if they don't, they're either lying or I don't know, they don't have a family. Yeah, so it's a give and
And
take.
it fluctuates, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like sometimes things are great and sometimes
yeah.
things are awful and
I think
sometimes things are kind of in the middle.
absolutely that's you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but I think at the end of the day, as you mature, you have to compromise. You got yeah, it's a delicate balance, put it that way.
Very much so.
Yeah,
It's not. I was addicted to this TV show.
yeah.
Speaking of relationships, I don't know if you were. I doubt you were watching it, but it's called Summer I Turned Pretty.
Sorry, what was that?
Summer I Turned Pretty.
Oh,
It's
right.
this
Okay.
show that's like a juggernaut. It
Okay.
just finished its third and final season, but it's
Yeah.
effectively about this young person's
Yep.
um, decision about who she's going to marry, and she goes to, or who she's going to be with. And I got very much invested in it, but it was a fantasy in my mind. I wasn't thinking of it as like a realistic portrayal of love because, as people who've been married for a long time know, marriage is not the end game. Like it's not happily ever after as soon as you make that decision.
Hundred
It's
percent. 100%.
a lot of work,
Yeah.
and sometimes you work harder, and sometimes you don't have to. And kids come along and change, and then you change as a person. Your partner
Correct.
changes,
Correct.
and then your relationship completely evolves.
Evolves
So I find
exactly.
it really funny when
Yeah.
like a lot of these love stories kind of they end it at the marriage, like that's the end game,
Yeah.
getting finally the right person, and like everything's fine after that.
It's
Like
just
I'm much in what happens after.
exactly. It's another chapter, and that chapter is a huge chapter because you're getting literally two people. Well, some love marriages. You get to know each other. They
Mm,
marry. Whereas if you have, like still in our community where there's still some elements of arranged marriage, you're getting two unknown
yes.
people together, and that's it's got its pros, it's got its challenges as well in those. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, like it's a delicate balance, and yeah, I think I don't think there's anything more. I would say, my mom used to tell me, it's like a bit of roses. Roses. You've got good memories, yeah, but at the same time, you have the thorns as well.
You have a lot of
You
thoughts.
got the thorns as well. So I think marriages or friendships or any relationship, it's like a bit of roses. You got the nice flowers,
Yeah.
there's good memories, whereas you got the thorns, and you have to be very careful of those thorns as well.
Absolutely. And
Anyway,
you have to navigate them because
yeah,
we are social animals. Like
absolutely,
it's not possible to just abandon all social obligations and all social interactions and just become a hermit.
hundred percent.
There's this strong biological urge to kind of find someone to
Yeah.
procreate with. So marriage is like always going to be in the picture.
Yes.
And you have relationships with parents and
Yeah.
siblings and friends. And this
Absolutely.
is just
Yeah.
This is just part of
It's
it.
just one part of it, like you correctly pointed out. You've got different branches of relationship, like siblings and parents and
Mm.
in-laws and all sorts of branches. Especially if if you have a very wide, what do you call that? Just like a very large family, and you have to
Yeah.
sort of please everyone. I'd say in a way.
Oh, look, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm married into a very big family. So my
Yeah.
family, obviously, you know my family, and it's not super big. It's a medium-sized family, but I'm married into a huge family
Yeah.
where I think if you put all of us in a room, like extended, it's like
Mm.
more than 120 people by
Okay.
now. But
All right.
when you add spouses and children and everything else,
Yes.
so I'm married into a really big family, and I think being a brown girl, eldest daughter, I was just obsessed with people pleasing and thinking to myself, how do I make all 120 people love me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really naive and really silly.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yes.
and I realized quite quickly it's not
It's not
possible. But
possible. Yeah.
no,
It's
no.
it's a, it's a
But you
it's
have boundaries, and
yeah.
you have to think about
Correct.
what is achievable and who your main people are. And
Correct.
alhamdulillah, 15 years later, I feel like I've found my balance, and I have
Yes.
really loving, mutually affectionate, and warm relations with my in-laws, which I'm so lucky to have.
MashaAllah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
Now,
alhamdulillah.
I'm going to talk about your book shortly, but I've got just two more questions about your law thing.
Mhm.
I mean, what sort of challenges, in your experience in working in the law industry? What sort of challenges have you faced at work, or any discrimination
Mm.
that you faced? Now, like you said, you being a Muslim, or
Yes.
sometimes people wear the hijab. Is there any
Mhm.
discrimination that people face at work, or, I mean, in your experience?
Oh, look, it's like any profession,
Yeah.
any white collar profession.
Yeah.
Typically, the people on the ground are very diverse, and then as you climb higher, it gets whiter and whiter. And the
Mm.
legal profession is no different.
Yes.
I remember I used to wear a hijab when I
Mm.
was in law school, and when I first started out as a lawyer, I was a hijabi.
Yeah.
And I still remember finding it so hard to get my first gig
Mm.
um, in the law. And I remember kind of going to a networking event. Everyone was like, "You've got to network. You've got to put yourself out there." And I felt so uncomfortable about it. But I was like,
Mm.
"All right, let's do it." So I dragged myself off to this networking event, and I'm talking to these random people about, trying to get that foot in the door. And I still remember this older sort of Australian gentleman from one of the big firms. So I'll never forget what this gentleman said. He looked me up and down at this networking event,
Oh,
right
really?
from my hijab down to my feet, back up to my eyes. And he said, "Well, you're not very marketable, are you?" And I was just like, sorry? Like, when someone says something so blatantly racist and you're really not expecting it. And even he, because when I said sorry, he just kind of like he snapped himself out of it, and then he's like, oh, muttered something, and then he disappeared. Like he hadn't realized that he'd said, said that. So I think like it kind of was a bit of a wake up call, because again I think I was quite naive and I thought I could just win everyone over with my charming smile and my wit and God knows what. But I think that was a wake up call for me to realize that actually there are going to be a lot of people that look at me and just see a brown girl in a hijab, and I just got to keep that door. They're not going to be interested in opening that door for me. Um, so that kind of made me think about, okay, well, if I am going to try and get my foot through a door, I want that door to be open for me. I don't want to have to slam it down. So I started to look for roles in like smaller suburban firms that were actually run by people of color, and that's where I got my start. And then eventually I moved to Victoria Legal Aid, which is where I spent most of my career. The Victoria Legal Aid is a massive firm. Um, I think it's public sector, not public service, and I don't
Mm.
quite know
Mm.
what the difference is, but
Yeah.
we're not quite government,
Yeah.
but we're government adjacent. And Victoria Legal Aid is super diverse as well. But again, like most organisations, the higher you climb, it becomes a lot less diverse. And I'm told that work is being done at a lot of these places to kind of rectify that, make it more diverse at those higher levels. But I don't know. It's almost like it feels a little bit like the door is open, but I don't want to walk through it. Like I don't want to be a part of. Yeah, I don't know. I feel as though it's I would have to compromise too much of myself
Yeah.
to walk through that door.
Yeah. I hear you. I understand what you mean. Yeah. 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 It's very hard, but yeah. All right, Shamaila. Let's talk about your book. You are an author of a children's book. I've heard you're going around the world doing book signing tours. MashaAllah, that's simply amazing. But congratulations, though. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your book, please?
Oh, thank you. It's so strange. I I'm so proud of the book and I'm so pleased with how it's come out. It's been like a real labor of love. I love the illustrations by the very talented Rehan Ismail, and I'm so grateful to Cube Publishing for taking a chance on me. I have to say, I didn't realize that when you become a writer in this climate, you also have to become a content creator. So I'm kind of having to think of ways to market the book, and I was like, oh, can someone else do that for me? Because I was just all about getting the book published, and that's it. But it is part of it is that you have to sort of do these events and put your name out there, put yourself out there a little bit, which I don't mind because the themes of the book are themes that I'm actually quite interested in more broadly, and I don't mind speaking about them. And I think they're themes that resonate with a lot of parents of Muslim girls in particular. So I quite enjoy that aspect of it. I did a podcast with
Yes.
a lovely person called
Yes.
Beanish, who runs the
Yeah.
coaching chapters, and she is running a book event for me in Dubai very soon. So I'm very much looking forward
MashaAllah.
to meeting some people in person and having some good, engaging conversations.
Oh, that's amazing. What's the title of your book called?
It's called All the Ways to Be Pretty, and
All the
it's
ways to be
available at
pretty.
all good booksellers.
No, I'll if you want, you can give me your link. I'll put it down in the description below, and people can
Thank
look this up. Like I
thank
said,
you.
you're becoming a content creator. I'm doing this as well on the side, so which gives me a good segue to my next question. With cost of living, everything is being high. Groceries are high, fuel is high. Like
It's a
like what
hustle.
a
You
It's
got
a
to think of
hustle.
it as a hustle.
Is this kind of like a hustle?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
no, look, I mean the book was never intended to be sort of a side hustle or anything like that.
yeah, yeah.
I alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful that I'm in a profession where my job is quite secure,
Mm,
and I know that the cost of living is really hideous at this time.
yeah,
Um, and I keep telling my husband that I remember when we were broke and newly married, like starting off in our careers and earning very little.
yeah.
Um, and back then we were still able to manage, even though we weren't earning very much. There were times when only one of us was working because one of us was unemployed or made redundant and so forth. And despite that, we were still able to make rent and we were still able to pay for food and pay for our bills. We didn't have money for holidays, but we were able to make ends meet. But I can't imagine people doing that now, like with how
Mm,
expensive everything is. I don't
yes,
know how people are surviving, and it's so upsetting because everything has gone up. It's
correct.
almost pointless to budget and to think about ways to cut costs because
It is.
if you
It is.
actually cut it from one aspect, you're just kind of pulled from another. So
Hundred
I
percent.
really really worries me.
Yeah, yeah,
How younger people are getting by, people without a safety net, how they're getting by. I'm also
yeah,
just conscious that I have a lot of privilege because I have family who would look after me if things went south.
yeah.
Um, Not everybody has that privilege. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's
very,
difficult because wages are not keeping up with the inflation. Your salary is not keeping up. So
no.
yeah, it's very hard. And like you said, it's very difficult to budget as well. If you like, if you
Mm,
spend less on something else gets, you got to pull out from something else. And
that's it.
And I worry mostly for the next, like our children. Yeah,
Yes,
how you're
absolutely.
buying properties is it's going to be difficult. I don't think pension's going to be around in the next generation. So, and I guess whatever we are doing, I think whatever we are doing, we just have to try and make a nice nest for us.
Yeah,
At the same time, get something for the kids to kind of fall back on.
absolutely. It's really quite
Yeah,
troubling, and I think about it a lot. Again,
yeah,
one of my privileges is that I'm in Melbourne, where the cost of living is still it feels manageable as compared to Sydney.
yeah,
House prices here are still, depending on where you are, obviously. I'm in the western
yeah,
suburbs. House prices are still
yeah,
manageable. They're still affordable. You can
yeah,
still buy a house with a yard
yeah.
here and you don't have to
Okay.
pour all of your salary into it.
Yeah,
So I'm very grateful and privileged to be living in Melbourne, but I feel for people in Sydney. I look at the house prices and
yeah,
I just don't understand them. I'm like, why is this
yeah,
why why is this house $1 million?
yep. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
This makes
it's
no sense.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that is
But
stressful, and I
I get
understand the
it's
pressure to have a side hustle when
yeah,
if you are living in such circumstances. But
yeah.
that
I
wasn't
get,
it for me in my book. It wasn't necessary.
mm, but I guess that's what it is, isn't it? That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Just coming back, yeah, just coming back to your book, Shamaila. What's the future on this book? Are you having any books coming up? Any more books coming up?
Well, I wrote this book for my daughter, and now
Yep.
everyone's saying that you need to write a book for your son. I'm a very, like, I was talking to someone else about this. I'm not a very
Yeah.
disciplined writer. I truly believe
Mm.
writing, like anything, is a discipline, and you have to sit down
Yeah.
and spend some time perfecting it and doing it. But I've never been that person. I've always just written organically and whatever's just come into my head, and I've written small things here and there. So with this, with all the ways to be pretty, I it just came into my head, and I think I wrote it down one afternoon in about 20 minutes, and then I tweaked it a little bit, and then I sent it out to publish because it was something that I could see was actually half decent. So I'm hoping that a similar idea comes to me with my son, because I am interested in writing a book for boys, just sort of unpacking what it means to be a Muslim boy. Um, because this was a book, obviously, All the Ways to Be Pretty is about what it means to be a Muslim girl and exploring the idea of, what is a meaningful role model to aspire to, what are some meaningful goals to look towards, that are not focused on superficial and the exterior. So with boys, I'm kind of interested in unpacking what it means to be a strong Muslim man, strong in your identity, someone who can use your God given gifts and talents in a way that is of service to others, as opposed to using it to control and abuse people, which seems to be
Yep.
happening, unfortunately.
Yes.
So I would like to kind of explore those ideas a little bit. And I've got some
Yeah.
thoughts, but
Yep.
nothing concrete at the moment.
MashaAllah. May Allah make it easy for you, and may
I
Allah may
mean,
give you like make it. I think you're going to be a great inspiration for a lot of people out there.
oh, that's so kind, Shafiq. Thank you.
All right, I think well, just the last few questions, Shamila. Now you're in you're a professional, you're a lawyer. What any tips that you can share in terms in the industry, or like how people get by, don't
Oh,
commit
gosh.
crimes?
That's a big one. What are your tips for life?
Tips: don't commit crimes. Stay out of
Don't
trouble.
commit crime. Stay out of trouble.
Trouble. Yeah.
Indeed.
Is
Indeed.
that,
That's one thing. Stay married.
stay married?
Get divorced.
Compromise.
Oh gosh, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Like I always think about like what I would tell my kids, and I'm
Yep.
constantly lecturing my kids
Yep.
about various things.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, I don't know.
I
In
think I'll
what
just probably
is that
yeah.
sort of
I'll
helping
probably
you?
I think it starts at home, isn't it? It always starts at home. I think you got to build a good foundation at home. Is that right?
I agree. In fact, now you've sparked a thought that I had just this morning about how
Yeah.
peace in the home
Yes.
lays the foundation for everything else to be good in your life,
Yes.
inshallah. So
Inshallah.
make decisions that will lead you to have a peaceful home life, even if it means you have to let go of certain things
Mm.
at certain points. It's not possible to have everything that you want all at once. Sometimes you have to have some content, build that gratitude, build that contentment with what you have. And there's nothing wrong with looking forward. Definitely look forward,
Yeah.
make plans. But those plans shouldn't derail you from seeing what you have in front of you. So I mean, in terms of my own life, I think about how being a lawyer is such a big part of my identity. It was hard for me to let go of that and take this training role. It was not an easy thing for me to do. But I remember thinking to myself that I have two young kids, and at the time, my husband's career was also kind of accelerating, so he was kind of under a lot more pressure at work. So I just remember thinking that if both of us are in high pressure roles, then that's going to lead to an unstressful and that's going to lead to a stressful environment at home, and then I'm going to suffer, my husband's going to suffer, my marriage will suffer, my kids will suffer, everything suffers. So something has to give here. And if at this point my husband's career is moving up, then I can afford to take a step back a little bit so that things are a bit more manageable at home with the kids, with the house. And then inshallah, once he's a bit more settled, then I can go back to accelerating my career a little bit, and then he can take over with those things. So it's just about, I guess, having that balance and making those really intentional choices about things. I think. I don't know. I don't know if any of that
I
made
agree.
sense.
No, 100% is crystal clear. Very, yeah, well said, Shamaila. I think, yeah, like you said, it's that balance. If one person's accelerating, again, you have to see what your priorities are. Family is the biggest priority. And
100%. There's
yeah,
nothing more important than family and having that support,
yeah,
like that peace at home. It's
peace.
it's
Yes.
everything. Absolutely
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So sort of
yeah.
prioritizing your family, prioritizing your marriage, your relationships with your children. If and I know that not everyone has the luxury of doing that. I mean, I think of my parents and how much they struggled when we were younger
Yes.
and they were building a life for us. My dad's a first
Yeah.
generation migrant as well. So it's a very
Yes.
luxurious thing that I have where I can sit there and
Yeah.
make these choices. Um,
Correct.
Not everyone has that, and
Whereas,
I appreciate that.
some people have to do double jobs. Husband and wife doing two jobs just to try and get ends meet. And
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. But like I
Absolutely.
said,
Yeah. But if you're
yeah,
in a privileged position where you do have choices, then just think about those meaningful choices instead of just kind of mindlessly climbing a ladder or mindlessly trying to gain more excess in your life and more wealth and accumulate more and more and more. It's never going to be enough. There
correct.
has to be
Yeah,
a point where you're like, okay, what I have is enough, and I'm
correct.
I'm happy.
You gotta be content with whatever Allah blesses you with.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
Now, what's second last question? What's 5, 10 years? I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. We do not, we're Muslims, we're believers. But what's 5, 10 years looking like in your industry? Does artificial intelligence play a big role in the law industry, or like what's it like?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's an interesting question. We are still in a bit of I think like most industries,
yeah,
we are still really unsure about the role of AI
yeah,
in the profession. I know that a lot of lawyers have jumped on it because of how convenient it is and how helpful it is. I started using ChatGPT only recently, and I was so suspicious of it because I've watched
yeah,
way too many Terminator movies, and I was
yeah,
like, no, 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 like everyone's forgetting that this is how they suck you in, and next minute the whole planet's aflame. So,
yeah.
but then something happened, and I asked ChatGPT a question, and it was like game over. I thought this is amazing.
All right.
And
Okay.
there are lawyers actually that have gotten into a heap of trouble because they've used ChatGPT to prepare court documents
Mm.
and they haven't actually checked what ChatGPT has produced. And then they filed those documents at court, and they're riddled with errors. There's made up court cases being cited in them.
All
And
right.
then judges are actually referring those practitioners to the Legal Services Board for a complaints investigation. And that's happened, I
Wow.
think, to 7 lawyers that I've heard of in the news.
Okay.
So at the moment, the legal profession is really risky. Like, it's quite a risk averse profession.
Yeah.
So people at the moment are like, don't use it until we know more.
Yes.
But I think in the next 5 or 10 years, it is going to be an inevitable part of the profession.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if lawyers don't get on board with it, I mentioned before about people becoming self-represented litigants because they can't afford lawyers or they
Yeah.
can't access free lawyers.
Yeah.
Those same people have access to these AI tools. And if they
Correct.
feel but they're getting the same job done as a lawyer who is charging thousands of dollars. Like, lawyers have to be
Yeah.
able to demonstrate their value. And if
Yeah.
we're not keeping up with this technology, then we're going to fall behind and we're not going to be able to demonstrate that value to clients.
And yeah, that's going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, we have to get
Yeah.
on board. As much as I'm terrified of AI, I recognize I recognize the usefulness of it, and I think there are safe ways to do it. I think there are ways that you can limit risk, but it does feel a bit like the technology is kind of moving along so quickly, and the legislation is playing catch up. So the regulation, the legislation, it's playing catch up, and sometimes harm has to occur before people kind of are able to effectively regulate it. So I do worry about that, but I'm hoping in 10 years that it's stabilized and we know a little bit, we know enough, and there is enough, there are enough measures in place to make sure that it's not harming,
Yeah.
causing any harm.
Yeah. That's right. It's a double, kind of like a double-edged sword,
Mm.
sort of. Yeah.
You must be
Anyway.
seeing it a little. I mean, maybe not in surgery, but I feel like general
No,
practitioners
like
are dealing with a lot of
general
people.
practitioners. I think even general, I do a little bit of general practice as well. And
Mm.
so I think so far it's used mostly in note taking. So usually we sit and write notes and do a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
of, yeah. I think now with AI, you can sort of, the doctor and the patient, they talk to each other, whereas you have a recording device with the patient's permission, and
yes.
it transcribes it, just sort of makes it easier. Well, I find it a bit hard still. I'm not
Mm.
fully on board. I use it on and off here and there, but yeah, not I mean, I don't think robots are gonna do the surgery, whereas there are robot assisted surgery being done, but yeah,
Yeah, it's still there.
that's a
Still needs
different,
to be like a human oversight at some
that's
point.
a
I
human oversight. But anyway, that's a different discussion for another time.
think. Indeed.
All right. Is there anything that I've missed that you wanted to talk about, Shamaila?
No, this has been lovely. If you have any other
Yeah.
questions, I feel like you and I could talk all night. This has been a really fun discussion and good fun.
Like I said, we've got young kids. We gotta see to them. But yeah. But anyway.
Indeed.
But no, Shamaila, it was really interesting talking. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking. We talked a lot, quite a bit of stuff actually.
Yeah,
And
covered a
yeah,
really broad range of topics. It's been
yeah.
really lovely speaking to you, Shafiq.
Yeah, no, I wish you all the best, and may Allah Azza wa Jal make it easy and grant you a lot of barakah and success in whatever you're doing.
Amin, and right back at you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Shavila.
No worries.
I'm just going to.
Salam
So
alaikum.
thank you for staying and listening till the end. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If this is something of interest or someone may benefit from this, please share, follow, and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Thanks, Shavila. Like I said, I have to become a content provider as well, creator.
That's the hustle.
That's the hustle. All right, Shavila. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Inshallah, I'll see you around.
Inshallah.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.